Okay, so we want to go ahead and get the data, but the difference is we don't want to insert it immediately. We want to check that the current password that the user enters matches the existing password. For some reason, if the user is logged in and someone else has access to their computer temporarily, we don't want to enable that new user to be able to easily change their password without knowing the existing password. So this is fine. We're just going to do a little bit of changes here. The first thing we're going to do is we want to check if the old password matches the password of the current active user. So if, I'm just going to call this one check, and we're going to use a MySQLi statement, MySQLi, and we're going to prepare a statement, and we'll do select password from members where ID equals question mark. And if that's fine, we're going to bind the params. And the S stands for string, as we've talked about in the past. And then the second one is we're going to pass in the session variable ID that we created a couple minutes ago. Okay. So we bound the session variable within this query. Now we just need to execute it. So check, execute. And then we want to bind the results. So check, bind result. And I'm just going to put that in a variable called current pass. And check, fetch. So that's going to actually get the data from the query. And finally, we're going to close the query out. So check, close. Okay, so assuming that's all good, we're going to skip on to the next thing. We want to actually check that the data that we got that's currently in the current pass matches up. So if this one's going to be a little bit tricky, because remember we do a couple things to this password. So it's MD5 and input current pass. So this is the data that's gotten from the form, and we're going to add on to that excuse me one second. Oh, here we go. Config, we add the salt. So if that's going to equal the current pass, so this is the MD5 hash of the user's current password, and this is the current password that the user entered in from the form. So if that matches, actually I take that back. I'm going to go ahead and do, if it doesn't match, we're going to show an error. So error alert. And then we're going to go ahead and include our view again and display these errors to the user, like so. Otherwise, let's go ahead and continue. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this section of code, paste that in place. And we just need to do a little bit of some changes to this query here. So rather than an insert, we're going to do an update. I'm just going to delete this entire thing. Update members set password equals question mark, where ID equals question mark. And we want to bind parameters. We want to create this new password. So we're going to just grab this section here. And we want to save that to the database. And then the second one is, again, the session. Okay, so I believe that's set. Yeah, that should be fine. We execute, we close it out, and I believe we're good. So let me save this. And I'm going to open up login.php. Looks like that's good. Let's make sure we can make this work correctly. Okay, so it logged in. Let's go to change password. If you open up the includes and check your config, we need to change this. If I remember correctly, we set this to a very low value in our last couple examples because I wanted to show it to you in action, the session timeout. So go ahead and change that, and while we're at it, if you open up the password view, let's go ahead and change the input type of the first input from text to password. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and refresh this. Let's try one more time. Change password. And it looks like we're just about good. I believe we just need to change this message. And rather than member added successfully, let's just go ahead and say password updated successfully. That's taken care of. And one quick thing I also noticed, we need to make sure we're updating the correct information. So instead of current password, we can just go ahead and put in pass. We want to make sure that this password that we're saving in the database is the new password, not the old one. So let me go ahead and save it. I'm going to refresh this page. Let me log out and log back in briefly. Okay, so change password. I'm putting in temp temporarily. Let's go ahead and log out and check to make sure the new password was saved. So I'm trying admin, and it tells us the username or password is incorrect. And I'm trying temp, and I'm successfully logged in. Well, that wraps up today's tutorial. Thanks for listening, and hopefully you found it useful.